One plane crashed into the Pentagon, one crashed into a field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, and the other two flew into the World Trade Centers.
Several police, sheriff's deputies, and fire departments from Metro Detroit went to New York City to act as first responders, and one of those people was Oakland County Sheriff Mike Bouchard. Thank you so much for joining us today to talk about this here on 9/11. First of all, where were you when the first attack happened?
I was in my office. We were actually meeting on some other issues, and obviously, like everyone else, even the president said that, you know, when it first hit, they thought it was a terrible pilot or an accident, and so initially we had the same thoughts, and then when the second one hit, we began to obviously react. And the first thing we did was put Oakland County on a footing for the unknown. No one knew how widespread this might be or what might be next, so we called in all of our resources and kind of put us on a stable ground. And after a few staff meetings to make sure that was squared away, then we contacted New York because they had sent out a message saying they needed help.
When did you first get that message that they needed help? How long was that after that the attacks were announced?
That was not too late in the day. That was late morning, early afternoon. We got a teletype message basically saying that they needed help in the response.
And did you find out later did that go across the country?
I think it did. It certainly went to we're a major county sheriffs, major city chiefs. They tend to have a fair amount of resources. And at the time, and still now, I'm the head of government affairs for Major County Sheriffs of America. So we're kind of tapped into a lot of the national activity. And so when we got that message, we immediately began to put together what we would need. So, you know, we put four-wheelers from our all-terrain, kind of the park unit, and our accident reconstructionists and our mobile command center, and started to gather assets we thought would be helpful there.
I think that's so interesting. Did you go as a volunteer, or did you go because you were signed up to go as part of your job?
Well, we volunteered to go. You know, I, in essence, answered and said, we'll send a team.
Okay.
And so our team was on the road by midnight on September 11th.
And here are some pictures from that time. Tell us about what's going on.
Well, actually, your station came and interviewed me and said, as often happens when something happens nationally or internationally, what's going on here, what's the local response, what can people do was the question that was asked. And I said, well, we're going to be heading to ground zero. There's not a lot people can do other than pray, but if they want to, they could bring some water, flashlights, and batteries to our office, and we'll get it there.
And that was the bottled water, I think, a mountain of it.
It was unbelievable how fast it poured in, so much so that it began to stack up, and I was afraid we wouldn't be able to bring it in our mobile command in our cars. And someone called in and said, I'll donate a tractor trailer, a truck, a generator to go with you. And we filled that so the mud flaps literally were dragging on the ground as we went to New York.
Wow. I remember from that time, there was never more unified time in my lifetime that I can remember for our nation.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you can see that, I mean, especially when it came from a political standpoint, too. You know, we're 13 years in, Sheriff, now. What kind of emotions do you feel on this day each year, especially when you look at pictures like the ones you were just showing?
Well, you know, obviously a great deal of sadness for the families. It's still a void and an open wound for them every day. That was the largest single day loss of police and fire in the line of duty. You know, so many police officers and firefighters rushed into that building, and when it came down, they were all lost. And they were still rushing in after the first one came down. They didn't stop. And so, you know, obviously our prayers go with their families and all the souls that were lost on that day, regardless of where they were. But it also kind of goes to what have we done to make the world, specifically America, safer as a result. Some things have been done to make it better. There's still, I think, a ways to go. Securing our border, some of the communication of who's coming in, why they're coming in, tracking when they move about. A lot of that stuff still is not to the level I think it needs to be.
Now, today, obviously a day of memorials all across the country, including right here at home. How are you planning to spend the day?
Well, we have kind of a two-pronged memorial. Obviously, we remember those from 9/11 that lost their lives, but also we tend to bring it home and localize it because every day men and women of police and fire service go out there and are willing to give their life for someone they've never met. And so today we'll hold a ceremony where we add the names that have not been added to the wall yet in the Michigan Fallen Hero Wall. It's a Vietnam-like wall that we have up in Oakland County. Every police officer and firefighter that's ever died in the line of duty in the whole state is on that wall or will be on that wall. It's the only one in the country that combines them, and so we're well over 800 names. So we'll be adding the new names from the last year. The governor and the attorney general will be coming, but this is really more focused on the family members. So we have families that lost their loved ones that will be speaking.
Do you think it's important, obviously, that we talk with kids about this still? Maybe kids that weren't of age of understanding maybe 13 years ago.
Well, I think, absolutely. It's important to talk with them, but not necessarily just about this, but that there are evil and bad people in the world. It's not something to be afraid of. It's something to be aware of. It's something that, they can learn early on, whether it happens to be the stranger danger, as you walk through the discussions with them, that there's bad people in the world. And when anything happens, if they see something, they've got to say something. Whether it happens to be terrorism or whether it happens to be somebody inappropriately touching them. It's a conversation that's important to have with kids, but do it in an age-appropriate way.
Sure. Well, Sheriff Bouchard, thank you so much for coming and sharing some of your memories from that trip as a first responder to the worst terror attack on U.S. soil. We thank you for coming in today and all the work you're doing to commemorate those who
Thank you.
work to help us every day.
Thanks very much.
Thank
We'll see you,
you.
Sheriff. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Good to see you.